Hello, 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 and good evening. Welcome to When Wisdom Talks. I'm Alisha.
And I'm Kadesha.
And I'm Naomi. Let's keep the party going. And I think all three of us need that real quick. Let's just take a few seconds and just get our party on.
All right now.
Welcome to the show, y'all. It has been quite a week. And so that's why the three of us needed to have our little dance party before we started the show. We want to keep the energy lifted because we know all of you have many things that you do throughout the week as well. But this is our opportunity to share with you. Welcome to When Wisdom Talks. We are your hosts, the Wisdom on the Wall trio, and we thank you for another Thursday that you're hanging out with us. You know we love you. All of you who return week after week, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate and love all of you. And thank you to all of our newcomers. We love you as well. And please be sure to leave your name in the chat if you are a newbie, so we can give you a shout out. And so with that, we just want you to know that every week our mission is to empower all of you to live better and wiser through engaging discussions, fun activities, and inspiring special guest interview. This episode and all other episodes are sponsored by Wisdom on the Wall and Be Inspired Global. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my girl, Kadesha.
Thank you. Woo, I think I need to woosah. We danced it out. Now I need to breathe it out. It's important to make sure you take time to breathe, especially when you are on roller skates like the three of us are. But we are happy to have you tonight. We're looking forward to this show. Naomi had mentioned the word share earlier, so I want to go ahead and remind you to go ahead and share the show. That's what you see me doing. Actually, I'm texting it out. You can share it on social media. We want somebody to join in. Somebody needs to breathe. Somebody needs to laugh and just have a good time. So go ahead and share with somebody if you would. This month, we've been discussing Let Love Flow. But specifically this week, we're going to be celebrating National Caregivers Day. So we're looking forward. We have a special guest, as Naomi already mentioned, who's going to be talking to us about her experience and giving you some wisdom nuggets and encouraging you for those of you who are on that journey or will be on the caregiving journey. We also want to remind you that you can touch base with us. You can learn more about Wisdom on the Wall Inc. at our website at wisdomonthewall.com. So you'll be able to learn about our nonprofit. You'll be able to send us private messages. You'll also be able to purchase our book there as well. So we're looking forward to seeing you each and every Thursday. Go ahead, put it in your calendar while we're thinking about it. Put it in your calendar. We're here every Thursday at 8 p.m. But we're looking forward to giving you a good show today. So I am going to pass it on over to my girl, Alisha.
All right. All right. Well, thank you much, Kadesha. So this is our Girl Tell Me a Good Story segment. For those of you who were with us last week, you know we kicked this off as we talk about this is our second season. So we want to be fresh and fun and new. And what we've actually done is we combined our previous Girl, What's Your Story with a twist. We've combined it with Tell Me Something Good. And now we have Girl, tell me a good story. And it's basically a time for us to either share a personal story, something that we've done personally over this past week that we've enjoyed, something that we've experienced, or it could be a good story that we heard. But the common denominator is it's a good story. So I'm going to go ahead and kick us off tonight. And here we're going to put my technical skills together. But Naomi's going to introduce us and give us some more music tonight.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Here we go.
I love it. Well, I have a cute little video, and we're talking about let love flow, and we just celebrated Valentine's Day on Monday, and this cute little clip just shows basically how you can express love no matter how young you may be, and also what the weather may be like. So here we go. We're going to try and make this thing work, okay?
I just want to say, go Alisha. Go Alisha.
Go Alisha.
Valentine's Day. That definitely. I hope everybody had a great Valentine's Day, by the way. I know I did. I actually got a chance to get out to the movies to see what is it? Death on the Nile. That movie was amazing. So
Wow. Yeah, I don't know when the last time I've been to the movie theater. Yeah, it's been a while. Because honestly, we're just so tired. We probably be the ones falling asleep in the back of the movie theater. Oh, look at this little guy.
Oh, do you want to see Lila? Lila.
Happy Valentine's. What is this?
A young man has caught the hearts of
So I saw that, of course, on my favorite morning show, and I thought it was just the cutest thing. I mean, he told his parents he wanted to put on his best little suit so he can go and see his Lila and give her her Valentine's gifts. And I just thought, what went through my mind when I saw it was like, who did he learn that from? Like, did he see his dad do that, or did he see it on TV or something? But he came ready. I mean, he had his little multicolored roses. He had that little stuffed teddy bear and his candy, and he wouldn't give it to the dad. Like, the dad's like, you want to see Lila? He's like waiting at the door. Yes. Like, basically, I want to give it to her myself. And I thought it was so cool. Like, he stood outside. He was so polite. It's snowing. Now, I don't know if it was me. I would have been like, here, give this to whoever and keep it moving. But he was just so polite and patient. I just thought it was the cutest little thing. So
no, it was. I think too, grand gestures like that are so hard to find these days. So it's very sweet to see a young man his age actually doing that. So I give kudos to his parents who are doing a great job raising him and teaching him manners and respect for others. So that is a great video. Thanks for sharing.
And they actually said it was like over 3.4 million views of it. So what I was thinking was like, for those who have bigger boos and bigger bays who did not do that, maybe they could just share the video and just show them what it looks like on a little scale. So.
That was cute.
Oh goodness.
Well, I was jamming to the music.
Right.
So share some stories over there. What's going on?
So I have a few stories. Okay, help me make it quick, Lord. So the first one, so Tuesday after our meeting, I had my last meeting at 8:30. So right around 8:28, a text comes through, right? And you see this ultrasound. And first of all, y'all remember Pastor Abby, and I can share it now because she shared it publicly. But we had been praying, standing in faith for years for Pastor Abby. And she texts me literally minutes before my next meeting. I'm like, girl, I can't handle this. Tears are rolling down my face. She's 13 weeks pregnant. Her and the baby are doing well. And so I just stumbled across her because she was like, I gotta reach out to you before I put it on social media. And so I just came across her social media post, and I haven't read it in depth yet, but she lists out all these different scriptures that she had been standing on, the both of them, because they've been married now for many, many years, her and Andrew. And so it just was one of those moments, and you may not be waiting for a baby, but whatever you're waiting on, like it helps to be encouraged by other people's stories and other people's miracles. And because I was so close to it, like I know it was indeed a miracle. And so that's one let love flow story. I'm excited about this baby to come in August. And secondly, last night a certain somebody had me up to about 1:30. Miss Cotton, maybe her last name, but we were watching Love is Blind on Netflix. So I hadn't heard of it, right? So Jean's like, come on, you gotta watch it. So nonetheless, it's singles. They are dating via a pod. So they call it a pod. It's a private room, it has a wall, and you can't see the other person. So all you can hear is their voice, and all you have is conversation. And it's like you have a few days to decide whether or not the man wants to propose. And so they're having these deep conversations. Like you see these couples crying and falling in love via a wall. So after, if they decide to propose, then they go on a vacation for a week. After a week of vacation, then they move into with each other. And then if they so desire to continue, they get married in 30 days. So this is all fast, right? So there's one couple that I fell in love with, many couples, but well, maybe two, but one in particular. And so I just love them. They seem to have, please let it work, Lord. They seem to have a genuine connection. But more importantly, I love their passion to support each other. So it's an interracial couple, right? And so Lauren, very, very Lauren, very black. But she she had me cracking up because she was like, I'm so passionate about advancing the race, right? Advancing Black people. And so for her to come home to her family with a white fiance, they're going to be like, girl, what is going on? But he has experience with dating Black women. And so he's all for the cause, honey. And so I just love them. But it felt like to me, like there's just certain people that God will put together to show the world that we actually do need to come together more blended as just as a race, as races, right? And so well, that's our special guest. I done let it out the bag. But I thought about my friend, Rachel, because she is super rich and super into advancing the Black race as well. And so I'm just telling y'all, just be open, okay? He don't have to be a Tyrone or a Jerome. Be open. Caleb, Joshua, David, all may come with what you need as well. So Love is Blind is on Netflix. Don't ask me when it comes on. I don't know. I'm just catching up. But it is a good, feel good series. And I think you two will enjoy it.
That made me think of the movie. Was it Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Or I mean, I think it was the one years ago. I get was Sidney Poitier, but the one with the comedian
Ashton Kutcher and
yes,
Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what made me think of that. That's why I was over here cracking up. That's all I was envisioning. She taking him to meet her family, and that breaks off.
Honey, you see clips of the dad like, have you ever been in a room of all Black people? I'm like, oh Lord, here we go.
That reminds me of when I first, so my husband is Black like me. However, I have a story about family. So when my husband first started dating me, on my father's side, I have a really large family, and I have a lot of males on that side of the family, and they're all tall, like 6'5", and you know, they're tall guys. So I brought Titus over to my Aunt Barbara's house. We were having a family gathering. And so when we came in the house, we started walking kind of through the house, and my uncles all happened to be like between the kitchen and the back room. So as my husband was walking through, or Titus was walking through, we were dating at the time, so he wasn't my husband, but we were dating, walking through, all of my uncles were like standing up, towering over him to like make him feel intimidated. Then we get to the back room and they start grilling him, like, what you want with my niece? What you plan on doing? What are your goals? And he was in it. But you know what? I had to give it up for Titus. He held his own. But that's a show of love. Whoever you bring your loved one around, they want to make sure that you have good intentions for their loved one. So I think that's important. Titus went through it though.
Go ahead, Titus.
He came out on top.
He did. He held his own. But yeah, so as we're talking about watching things, I've been very mindful of the things that I have been watching, and just watching like feel good movies as well. So one of the channels that I have fallen in love with, and it's been around for a while, is let me move the banner out of the way too, but it's Up TV, Faith and Family. And I love it because it's so closely related to my own company, which our three pillars are faith, family, and community. So I was like, oh, how convenient. Oh, how awesome. But they have so many different shows. If you are looking for wholesome content, feel good content, Up TV is an amazing streaming system, and it's on TV. They have movies like The Song to My Heart, The Story of Love, A Wedding to Remember, all those sappy movies that you can binge watch on a weekend when you just want to be in the house chilling and watching TV. And so I love it. And they also do reruns of shows like Gilmore Girls, Reba, and shows like that kind of fall within that faith and family context. So I really love it. And the great thing about it is some of the movies stream on Roku and like on Amazon Prime and different sites like that. So usually I get to find those movies on there, and that's how I found out about it. I was like, oh, this movie is produced by Up TV, and I just started looking into it and doing my research. It is a wonderful, wonderful station, and I love the movies on there. So I've kind of been in my free time when I don't have a whole bunch to do, I'll just throw on one of those movies, and at the end of it, I'm like, ooh. So I just love it. So that's my story, y'all.
Love it. I've come across that station too. They do have some good movies, and some like little sitcoms when you're working on something and you just want some noise back there.
The background, yes.
Yep, absolutely.
That's funny. Yeah, I've been using the late night to just kind of relax before going to bed to something crazy or fun or loving or something like that. And then I'm like, wait, it's almost midnight.
It's like night.
It's easy. It's easy to get sucked in. I'm telling you, especially when you start watching some good shows. It's like, I don't want to stop.
Yeah.
Awesome. All righty. Well, thanks for sharing, ladies. Well, we're going to turn it on over to you, Kadesha. Take it away.
Yes, well, I can't hold water. So already let the cat out the bag on who's going to be our special guest. She's a repeat guest, Miss Rachel. And so we wanted to celebrate this month is they honor National Caregivers Day. So go ahead and type in the chat if you are a caregiver or you've been a caregiver or you're thinking about caregiving, because we just want to give you kudos to you, because as we were talking pre-show, it takes a special grace to be in that position, right? And a special love and anointing and patience and every other fruit of the spirit, honey. So kudos to you. So we wanted to bring Rachel on and just talk to her and so she can give you some words of wisdom, because many of us well, you know what? I won't even say that. Some of us may be in that situation in the future. And so we want to be prepared, right? And we want to know who we can call on to get some assistance, some wisdom, some help. And so, without further ado, we have Naomi's going to do a brief video, and then we'll bring out Miss Rachel.
Good
Hey.
evening, ladies.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's been a busy week, so I've been enjoying some of the. I do watch that show actually. Love is Blind, but it's been a busy week. But here we are.
Okay, so can we be open? Can we be open to a Jose, to a Joshua, to a David? I'm just gonna throw that in the chat. Okay, I'm just gonna throw that in the room because we've had this conversation before. Just be open. Okay, thank you.
That's what we tell every woman. Just be open. You never know what God has for you behind door or pod number 2.
I love it. I love it. So Jean was like, "You remind me of Lauren." I'm like, "Lauren reminds me of Rachel." So
you know what? We got to watch the show together because I agree with Jean. You remind me of Lauren. You do. For folks who watch that show, you do. You have her characteristics.
Well, you know what? Maybe we need to have another show on dating outside your race. That would probably be a good one.
That would be a conversation starter for sure.
Absolutely. But tonight, ma'am, we're gonna let you off the hook.
Okay.
And we are talking about caregiving. Yes. And I know you've been in a unique situation for how long were you doing that?
About a year now. So just when you thought, could this woman possibly have an additional moment, time, second to do anything else? Because I've been on the show and talked to you about my day-to-day job. But God, again, you mentioned it. You get put in these positions and you have to pivot and respond accordingly to his calling. Yeah.
Pivot is a great word. That's the perfect word for it. Yeah. So define briefly how we know in our head what caregiving is, but how would you define it, and which your roles and your responsibility was on a day-to-day?
Yeah, so my mother, she was diagnosed with heart disease years ago. And so, it's something that we have been watching her go through for years. And so we kind of anticipated that the time would come where, she would slowly start to deteriorate. And for me, the definition of caregiver, right? You have your scholarly definition is just really just making the time to holistically and wholeheartedly take care of someone who is sickly or elderly, right? And so it's interesting because prior to me taking care of my mother, I actually have a really good friend that Kadesha knows. And her name is Erica. She's also a Spelman graduate. And she was actually going through the process of caretaking and being a caregiver for her father. So from time to time, I would check in with her, just to kind of see if she was okay, because I knew it was a lot to balance with her career. And so I didn't even know that maybe, a few years later, I'd be in the same position. So my youngest brother actually started to attend a lot of appointments with my mother, right? My mother's also, I shared in the last time I was on that, we're from the Haitian ethnicity. So English is not her first language. So my brother would attend a lot of the appointments with my mother just to make sure she was understanding certain things and just translating. So I would say probably 2 Aprils ago, it took a negative turn. And so we were starting to get the information from the doctor, like your mother's heart is just not pumping correctly, and that, we're just concerned that, it's not moving in the right direction. And so I guess everybody was sort of on guard, and everybody was like ready. And my brother was taking on a lot of the responsibilities initially. And so, like I said, 2 Aprils ago, we just felt like, things were just not improving with my mother. And so she would attend hospitals, and you were getting the answers from doctors like, we don't know what else to do, right? Medicine, let's give her some medicine, let's monitor. And so the caregiving moment took place but I kind of questioned, like we should do, and advocate for our families, especially, again, women of color, and things that they're experiencing in the world of medicine. I started questioning, like, is it true that there really isn't another option, right? Because sometimes, like, we'll go with that answer because it may seem like the most comfortable, because we're not sure, if we're ready to hear the truth behind, the possibility of losing a loved one. But I was just convinced that with the new age of medicine and, the doctors and folks that are really spending time delving into these diseases that have been around for a long time, I was convinced that there had to be another way. Right. And so I started to reach out to other hospitals that were well versed in heart disease. And so I asked her primary care doctor, I said, is there a way that my mother can kind of get care from a different physician, that might be a little bit more well versed? And so her family care practitioner was very open to that and said, you know what, to be honest, it is a little bit above, my level of expertise. So I would not be opposed to her transferring to another location. And so when the transfer process started, I would say that is when the caretaking role just took off, because at this point, my mother had to transition from her home and move in with me because she was now transferred to Penn, which is so your Penn Medicine Hospital that's located in Philadelphia, and I'm in Northern Delaware. And so, just to prepare myself for that, I knew that I needed to pray about it because she would now be in my care. So, the biggest challenge for me initially was having the confidence to believe that I could possibly balance it all. Right. That's the biggest challenge I think anybody who takes on the role of caregiving. Can you truly balance your career or the activities that you have going on, and take care of this person that you love very dearly, because it is a 24-hour job. So that just kind of gives you guys a window into when it started for me, or what was happening prior to me taking on that role. Um, Up until now, she's in a different phase of the process, but you really just have to go in this knowing that it takes a long, it takes a long time, and it really is a full-time job. And my girlfriend Erica was a great example of that, and realize what it entailed until you actually get involved and you actually start doing it.
You mentioned a few good things, well, a lot of great things there, Rach. One of the words you mentioned was advocate.
Yeah.
And I think it's super important for us to take note of that,
Right.
that it is important for us to advocate for ourselves and for those that we love. So it's okay to question, to have questions to the doctors, even though they are deemed experts.
Yep.
But you can question that, right? Particularly if you're not getting the responses that you so desire. And the other word you said, and I just want to congratulate you because you really did, you use the word confidence, but
Mhm.
you really did it gracefully, because many
Thank
people
you.
didn't know all that you were carrying,
Hmm.
right? So you don't, it's not like you boast about all the things that you do, right?
Hmm.
So I just want to commend you for doing it gracefully and confidently, right?
Hmm.
And then the other word that I like that you said was Erica was an example.
Yes.
And I just think it's so important for us to have examples, people that we can literally call
Hmm.
or that we can see who have went through the process similar to what we're going through. So that was key.
Hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in on that too. You know, those words kind of stood out for me, especially when I heard the word advocate, because I truly believe you have to be an advocate, when it comes to your medical, your well-being and all that. Especially in your mom's case with the language barrier, definitely she would need somebody to advocate for her. So that was important. The other word that jumped out for me was the balance piece, because as Kadesha mentioned, you handle it so gracefully. Because when we were talking about this segment and she mentioned you, I was like, I was perplexed because I was surprised that you had that on your plate as well, because you would never have known that. Everything that you do as it pertains to the school and your personal life. I'm like, wow, like I had not known that. And when
Yeah.
she said grace, that was a perfect word to describe it. And again, it goes back to, it takes a special special person to be able to handle that with such gracefulness. So again, first and foremost, thank you for just your honesty, because I know we're receiving it, but there's some people out there that will never know how your story is really resonating so well with them, because they may right be in the midst of this situation right now. So, I do want to thank you again for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I wanted to hop in too and kind of lean into the fact that you had an example, and I think that's so key for caregivers to have a support system themselves,
Yeah.
because a lot of times you can feel alone in this situation. I had a similar story because when my mother was diagnosed with cancer, a lot of the weight fell on me. And
Mhm.
so it was hard to find individuals you could lean into or to find that you could talk to when you're going through this. So the fact that you had someone to look to as an example is so key. And that's one thing that I would suggest is that if you're a caregiver, if you can find a support group, I don't know if they have resources out there, so support groups for caregivers, but that part is important because you need a space where you can actually release or relieve some of the pressure you may be feeling as a caregiver.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm almost certain they have a support group for everything.
Yes.
Um, and one of the times that you had, and you probably, I'm sure you shared with me prior to us having brunch when we had brunch here, but it's like that's when we really, like, you really elaborated on what had been going on. And so that was an outlet for you, right? So it was like, we didn't want you to leave. It was like, no, Rach, but it was like you were really being responsible because you had, your mom at home and you wanted to get back. And we like, no, can't you stay a little bit longer like little kids? But it's like, you found that time to just break away. But one of the things you shared with Jean and I at brunch that time was, and I already knew that your mom was a little bit of faith, but it like that took my faith to another level when you share that story. So, do you want to like share what happened?
Yes, I will share. I think that that was probably the most transformative time in Naomi. Absolutely, that support system was critical because at some point I was, reaching out to my girlfriend and seeing if she was okay, but she was sort of making deposits in my mind in general about, the possibility of me being in the same position, and I didn't know that I would be, just a few short years later. But my mother is a woman of faith, and I think she has really taken my faith to the next level because the uniqueness of her heart disease is that she has a certain part of her right ventricle that is extremely thick, and so it causes her heart not to beat normally, the normal heartbeat, and the blood will not flow, which could lead to strokes and blood clots and other things because it's not allowing the blood to flow through her body. So initially, the doctors, which is why we always say your faith, it has to be the direction and the key to taking you and your life to the next level. Because the doctor originally stated that my mom's heart was so thick that he wasn't sure if this particular procedure would be effective for her. So immediately when they sort of assessed my mother's situation, it was open heart surgery, right? So it was like, we need to do open heart surgery. We need to go in and cut this part of her heart out so that we can make space for something else. My mother was so weak just from all of the procedures that I could just see it in her eyes that I was like, I don't think that she would survive the open heart surgery. When you just know it in your gut. And my mother was telling me, herself, like, Rachel, be patient. I just don't believe that open heart surgery is my solution. So this woman, I watched her resilience in the hospital, and she was going through different procedures and preparation for this other procedure, which sort of an electric shock to her heart to kind of kill off some of the dead cells, but you have to be the right candidate for it. But my mother, I saw her, stay quiet in the hospital and prayer and meditation daily. And then we're talking about a 3-month process preparing her for one of these possible treatments. But they were dead set on this open heart surgery. But my mother was like, I don't believe that this is for me. So, and she continued to pray that there's a better path forward. So, through advocacy and remaining consistent and constant, I supported her through her own prayers and had, the family was praying that, somehow the doctors would change their mind and say, you can do this electrical procedure, and I can't remember the name, so it's killing me because I was saying it every day. You know how you go through it and you're just knowing all the terms and vocabulary. I can't remember it now. So finally, the doctors came in and said, you know what, we're going to try. We're going to try this procedure, but I'm telling you now, this is what the doctor said. I'm telling you now, we're going to shock. We're going to try to send this current through your mom's heart the one time. And if it does not, I guess attach itself to her heart, we're going to stop. Right. So this is where the power of prayer and my mom's strength comes in. So I'm sitting in the hospital. It's the day of the procedure. And the doctor's like, are you okay? I said, I'm fine. I just hope my mom does well for this procedure. So she goes in for surgery and he comes out. And I think he comes out, and usually when things go well, the doctor's like, hey, Miss Valentine or Rachel, come over. He didn't say anything. So at that point, I thought I lost her because he just kind of motioned over to me. He just kind of did this. So I had already called my dad because I was like, Dad, if mom is gone, like, I can't do this. I can't take it on by myself. So he motioned to me and he came over and he was like, he could see it in my eyes, right? Because I was like, okay, if I lost her, I'm not ready to take this news. So at that point, the doctor, bedside manner changes because then he's like, okay, I gotta do something to calm her down because I can tell she's about to break down. So he leaned over, he grabbed my hand, and this is someone who they already described doesn't have the best bedside manner. He's very technical as a doctor, but he could see it. And I believe this is my mother's prayers also working. He could see that I was going to break down. So he grabbed my hand. He said, your mom did well, but I'm going to tell you, she's the strongest woman I've ever met. And I'll tell you why. I told you that I was going to shock her heart once. And if it didn't go, I was going to stop because I was going to put her through that pain. So he said, I did it 3 times. And he's like, I'll tell you why I did it 3 times. He was like, I shocked her heart once. She didn't move, because you're supposed to like jolt. I guess your body's supposed to move in reaction to it. And so he said something, these are his words, something told me to do it again. So he's like, I did it a second time. And he was like, and that's where I should just take my gloves off because I'm not doing this 2 times. But then he said, she still didn't move. And I said, something told me to do it this one more time. So he did it one more time. And my mother kind of did like a little shake or something. And it affixed itself to the right ventricle of my mom's heart, the 3rd shock, and was able to penetrate her heart to just begin the process of killing off. And he said, your mother was stoic, even going into the surgery, stoic in her face. She didn't say a word. She stayed calm. And he said, I've never seen someone take 3 shocks like that and survive it without going into cardiac arrest or, we lose them in the process. And he said, I'll be honest with you, I don't even go past the first time because I already know that it's going to happen. So I am just shocked by it because, and then my mother was kind of talking about her prayer of 3s, and she was seeing 3s everywhere in the hospital and things of that nature. And then the next day, this is where faith continues, where they say the journey is not over, because the next day they're supposed to monitor it with a heart, like a sort of a pacemaker. And so they're monitoring because, again, shocked her heart 3 times. She should be on a pacemaker. The whole night, pacemaker never went off. I mean, they keep going back to these rooms and they're like, we just want to check, like, her heart is just doing its own thing. Like the pacemaker is not going off. And my mom was just laying in the bed. And I know she was thinking like her God came in, performed the surgery right alongside this doctor, whispered to this doctor, you're going to do it 3 times for this woman, even if you've never done it, even if it's going to test your limits, even going to test your judgment. And to this day, when my mom shares that testimony, she shared that testimony at her church, and she said it was a standing ovation because she says it so clear. She was like, it took 3 times for the process to take place with me. And she was like, and it could have been over after the first time. And the story was so powerful because think about the number of times that you go through something and you want to give up after the first time, right? You don't even make it after the second time, but let alone the 3rd time. And that's why I said this woman on earth, my mother is an angel in my life. Like it doesn't matter what she needs, what she goes through. And I needed to be a caregiver to watch her share with me the story of resilience. And there's probably nothing that I would ever encounter in my life again where I would feel like I need to give up, because watching her go through that procedure, I
Mm,
probably forever will go through this process of thirds with everything that
yeah.
I do, just because it's
Amen.
so powerful. Yeah.
Wow. You said, honey, you said the story of resilience. I'm like the story of resurrection. Took me
Hmm.
right back to Jesus and
Absolutely.
the tomb.
And the tomb. Think about
And
when you think about the Bible, everything's in like thirds. When you think about,
yes,
the
yes.
divinity and everything, it's
Honey, so
very powerful.
you done got the church going over here in the chat, okay? You got them going on. You got they on fire over there.
That's how I
Kendra,
felt.
Kendra says something about the Holy Ghost I can't
Hallelujah.
explain.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness. Here go the church corner. You always need one or two in the church
Hmm.
corner. But I mean, just listening to that story again is just amazing.
Yeah.
And we never can fully fathom why God takes us the route that he takes us. But in your mother's case, your little mother, okay, that little strong woman,
Yes.
um, sometimes God takes us that route for other people to believe. And honey, those doctors and everybody else who was a witness, they are sure enough believers now because they
Absolutely.
saw and heard her prayers.
Hmm.
So I love that. I love that.
That was I just want to jump in because as you were saying that, I'm thinking like, one shock for the Father and one for
Hmm.
the Son and one for the Holy Ghost. That immediately went through my mind. And then the other thing I was thinking, kind of piggybacking off of what you were saying, Kadesha, them looking at her, like sometimes the best messages are just you living your life. So she didn't have to preach the gospel or throw the Bible at them. All they had to do was watch what she was doing. And they may never admit it, but they go back and talk about like,
Oh, yeah.
man, so yes, I tell that all the time. You could just live your life and be the Bible, that people would want them to pick up. But if they just read your life, they're reading a word right there. And your mom was like the walking word. That is just powerful. I have like goosebumps
Mm,
on my arms. This is powerful.
Hmm.
Woo,
Mm.
goodness
I
gracious.
love it. I love it. So, what did you, outside of that experience,
Yeah.
what did you enjoy the most about being your mother's caregiver?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what did you like?
I think spending time with her. I think, when you look at your parents or any person in your family who has sort of aged over time, but they served a very important role, whether it's a great aunt or a grandparent or a cousin, whatever the case may be. I had time to very intentional moments with her that I don't think I would have had. Just visiting from time to time or just checking in during the holidays. I think when you're in that caregiver role, every moment counts. So I found myself really just getting to know my mom an additional time. This is my mother. This is the woman who birthed me, right? I should know everything about her. But I spent time asking her about her stories as a child and just kind of what she was going through. And I enjoyed that the most. I learned a lot about my mother. She's always been very funny. But seeing her age gracefully has been so rewarding for me because I look forward to aging myself and being just like her. So just being able to sort of like intentionally sit and listen to her stories of struggle, how she transitioned here from Haiti years ago, how she navigated America, all of those things just sound a lot more powerful now. I feel like she told me these things when I was 14 or 13. You're not really listening. You're like, okay, mom, like I want to go hang out with my friends. But now, now that you're older, you hear these stories and you're just like, wow, these people are actually dynamic. They are your walking Black history, right? They are the walking stories of power and strength, and commitment or whatever those like terms that you define, these folks that become heroes in your life. You get to experience that with some elders in your family and just being intentional about it. So I would say finding the time, because of course you still have to make sure medicine, the schedule is right. Like my mom has a very strict diet at this point. Like she can't have any type of salts or anything. She takes like 6 different medications at different times. Each one monitors a certain part of her body for various reasons. And so you can easily get stressed or overwhelmed just kind of thinking about the schedule. But I push myself to consider, outside of those times, like how can I, make this moment count? with her while she's here recovering, so that I can get her home safely to a place where she can kind of function on her own. So I would definitely say, do that. Like, don't just, get so overwhelmed and stressed out about the actual act of the caregiving. Like, try to, dig a little deeper and spend that time with that elder. And I think it made a difference. I don't mean to, with her and her ability to heal, right? Just being able to mentally not focus on some of those stressful moments. And so by me asking her to talk more and share her experiences, I think it took her mind off of what she was going through as well. And it helped, her heal a lot faster, because your mental is just as important as your physical when you're dealing with an ailment. Yeah.
Wow, this is really good. And this may be kind of an expansion of kind of what you were hitting on, but we may have some people out there who are considering becoming a caregiver. Can you speak to that person or persons, and then to piggyback on that, just give a few words of encouragement for those who may be caregivers right now? Because as we talked about before, just being able to share with somebody who understands. So if you could give a word of encouragement to some of the caregivers that may be out there, that would be wonderful as well.
Yes. I can definitely share that. So I've been lucky to have a lot of caregiver friends that, you'd be surprised. And Naomi said it. There's a lot of people that's actually doing this. I also have another good friend that Kadesha knows, Burlington. He was taking care of his mother, who was a male caregiver. He actually officially had to do it by becoming a, nurse and go through all of the paperwork. But what I would say is, you have to make sure that your schedule is conducive to being able to do that. And so because of the work that I do as an educator, I have a little bit more of a flexible schedule, because you will have to leave in the middle of the workday to follow up on appointments. And the other aspect is actually being available for phone calls. Throughout this process, I would receive about 8 to 10 phone calls a day from a physician explaining another procedure, or, they've done some research about something else. And so you need to be available to be able to share things that you might have to say over and over again. So your schedule is critical. So do you have time in your schedule to accommodate, the new changes that will happen or take place by taking care of someone? That's key. The other thing is, you have to make sure that you have enough of a mental capacity to take on the needs that they have. So if you already know you're the type of person that has struggled with your own feeling overwhelmed or stressed, then it probably is not the best option for you, because you may contribute more to the stress of that person who you're trying to, help, battle an illness, so to speak. There's also a financial component that's critical, because the elder that you're taking care of, right, they're using Medicaid or Medicare. And so you're going to have to come out of pocket with some of the costs for, medicines and travel and things of that nature. So those three components are critical to the success of this. And if those three things are not aligned, you can end up, like I said, causing more harm than good when taking care of that elder. And then there are also more formal options, because you may actually take on the complete role of the caregiver, in which you have to actually go through the state and fill out paperwork to say that you are the sole caregiver, caretaker, and then be required to sign in every day and give a report on how that person is doing, medically, because there's levels to the caretaking, that's happening. So you can kind of take it to the next level, because you may have to be responsible for that person's finances and that person's transportation. And so sometimes, depending on the state that you live in, they may require you to do a little bit more to, just to make it official. So the advice that I would say, or the words of encouragement, is if you're currently a caretaker, I think you just have to make sure that you are scheduling moments for yourself. There are moments where, and walking was a huge release for me. I was always trying to find 20 to 30 minutes to just walk and get fresh air, during times where I didn't really need to be as responsive to my mother's needs. So make sure you take time for yourself, find something that you do to release some of that pressure and some of that stress. Open up to people who truly ask, like, how you're doing. You may not feel comfortable giving them every single detail, just because you may not want to, share confidential things about the person that you're taking care of. But definitely let folks in and let them know that you're doing okay, and that, I did reach out to my girl clan a lot by asking for prayer, just like keep me in prayer, y'all. Even if it's that, so those two things: let folks in, let people know what you're going through, and find time for yourself are the two key pieces of advice that I would give.
Wow. um, Ma'am, I think you may have a book that
I have like 10 books every time I get on this call.
brewing, because I'm telling you, like what you gave here was these were some key nuggets, right? And what I heard is that if you can't do those things, then maybe there's a different way, right? Because I think sometimes, because I know you're the oldest, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So sometimes that burden falls on the elderly child.
Yeah.
But what if they're not in the situation where they can't handle it financially? Maybe they're not sane mentally. Maybe their schedule doesn't allow for it. Maybe there's another resource and another avenue. So I think you just gave somebody permission to try to find something else, another way.
Right. And
And
work with your family too. My brother took on the first step in this. I can't even take all the credit. He was going through to the initial appointments. But when we started getting a little bit more detailed about her needs, I realized that I was probably the best person to take the baton from him.
Yeah, see, shared responsibility. You are teaching us tonight. You are teaching. Okay, well, let me put this in my parking lot for Rach. There's a book.
Yeah. You guys got to help me with this book, because I have a lot of these things, but somebody has to help write it.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for coming back. I know it was a whirlwind of a week and a whirlwind of a year. But thanks for taking the time to share you and your mother's story and your family story, because it's a family thing that you guys just experience. And I know by the comments, I know somebody was encouraged. So if for nothing else, you've already helped somebody along the way. So we love you, lady.
Thank you,
Yes, thank
ladies.
you. Love you much.
Love you too.
Well, enjoy your evening, and we'll have you on again in a few months.
Okay, sounds good.
Simply powerful.
Woo!
Oh my goodness.
Once again, Rachel
She
is
is just
wonderful.
awesome. Oh my gosh.
God has graced her to do a number of things.
Yes, absolutely. She
Mm.
definitely has to get that book out, or a podcast or something,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
to get that information out there. She is just a wealth of knowledge.
yeah.
What
The
I
caregivers podcast.
oh yes,
Yeah, right?
what I appreciated too about the last part of what she was saying too, and this is what I got out of it, is to do your research and ask the necessary questions. Don't, because a lot of times you go into these situations and you feel like, oh gosh, what can I do? What resources are out there? So there are times when you can go on, not times, but you can definitely go and do your research and find resources for caregiving, even if you're not able to. In home care, there's so many different options. So it's about opening up that mouth, asking the appropriate questions or the right questions, and doing your research too. That was one thing I got out of it.
Yeah, that was huge. And I think another piece of it that she was kind of hitting on was being honest, assessing yourself and being honest with what you can do and your limitations. And I think another piece of that is not feeling guilty. If you can't do it, you'll do more harm trying to operate out of your guilt and wanting to do it, because we all want to take care of our family members, our loved ones. But if that's not what you're able to do, then you can't allow the guilt to make you do it, because again, like she said, you can be harming that person more because you're not providing the mental that they need, and also just the atmosphere, for lack of a better word. So I think that was really huge. That jumped out for me as well.
That's a good word you use, Alicia, because so often we guilt ourselves into things when really we just need to be graced for it, right? So either God has graced me to do it or he hasn't, right? I don't need my guilt trying to put me in a place in which I'm not called to do, right? So that's good. And obviously she was graced for this assignment. And so yeah, that was really good, really good. We have a few minutes, 7 minutes to be exact. Do we have time for Wisdom Corner? I think we do, or no?
Sure.
Yes. Yeah.
2 minutes apiece, so we'll be good.
Okay. All right. Who
I
wants
was
to?
gonna see if we had any other comments, but we good with that.
I think so. I think mostly everyone was just in the amen corner.
And amen.
They were like, I know that's right. And God, glory to God. And yes,
Oh,
Lord. And yes. And hands up emojis and praying hands, all kinds of things. So people would get their praise on in the chat today.
love it, love it. All righty. Well, we're gonna go here into Wisdom Corner. This is as we're kind of wrapping up just a wonderful show tonight. And this is a time for us to give you some wisdom nuggets. I mean, you got a ton of nuggets tonight from Rachel, but we're going to share on love and on wealth and on wisdom. So I'll go ahead and kick us off and I'll talk about um, the nugget from as it pertains to wealth. And I'm going to talk about it from the standpoint. There's a quote that I came across from Michelle Singletary. Many people may know of her. She writes a lot of financial books, and I think she also writes for the Washington Post. And she's also a Christian, African American female. But this was a quote. She said, "Money may not buy love, but fighting about it will bankrupt your relationship." And I'll say it one more time. Money may not buy love, but fighting about it will bankrupt your relationship. And I thought it was so appropriate because we're in the month of love. We're talking about let love flow, and you know how appropriate to let love flow in your relationship. So for anybody who has ever been in a relationship, is in a relationship, and has ever argued or had what they say intense discussions about money, they know how true that quote is. And the key really is to keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is to maintain the love and the happiness in that relationship. So over the course, we're going to go back to the little confessions that we used to do. So over the course of our next week, say at least 3 times a day, or since we're starting back, I'll give you 1 time a day, but at least say this. And the confession is, I understand the relationship between love and money. Therefore, I will keep money in its place. And I'll say that one more time. I understand the relationship between love and money. Therefore, I will keep money in its place. Amen. So I'm going to pass it on over to our next little nugget that's going to pop up.
Well, I'm going to be talking about love, and my take on it is love in the midst of trials. And the reason why that's significant is because each of us go through things in life, some expected, some unexpected. However, love, as the scripture says, covers a multitude of sin. If we are gracious to ourselves and to others when going through trials, it can make all of the difference. But I'm going to tell you that the greatest example of love is God's love towards us. That even when we face trial and tribulation, it helps us to move along through our trial. It's never his desire for us to get stuck in the trial. His desire is for us to go through it. And so love is a key portion of that. I am currently in the midst of a trial, but God's love is what's carrying me through. And all of us are going through something right now, especially with the way the world is going. Love is the key. As the song goes, love lifted me. I love that song. But absolutely, love can lift you and it can lift me. And we have to learn to be gracious to one another when we're going through, because you don't know how much that love extended to someone else can help them and change their lives. So love in the midst of trials.
That was good. That was good. Y'all preaching tonight. Well, you know what? I think Rachel said it perfectly in terms of the power of 3. And I was reminded of Matthew 7:7, and where it says, "Ask and keep on asking, and it will be given to you. Seek and keep on seeking, and you will find. Knock and keep on knocking, and the door will be open to you." So, if you have experienced any closed doors lately, keep knocking, please,
Mhm.
because eventually the door will open. And I'm just so glad that she kept pointing out three, because if you are believers, we know that very important things happen on day number three. And so, um, honey, I don't know about you, but if you need anything resurrected in your life, give it at least to day number three. So I just want to encourage you to keep going, whatever you're going after, to keep hope alive, particularly in this month of love. And I know many of us are waiting. Um, Single and waiting. And so I believe that if you keep at it, God will definitely make true on his promise, as we are reminded with Pastor Abby and Andrew. So we are appreciative for you stopping by this week and every week. We are grateful to empower you and to give you some wisdom nuggets. We want to remind you that this episode, When Wisdom Talks, is brought to you by Wisdom on the Wall Inc. and Be Inspired Global. We want to remind you that we are empowering 3 times a week. So Monday nights at 6:30 p.m., we have a pop-up prayer call. Wednesday morning, 6 a.m., an empowerment prayer call. And Thursday night, this is our third stop. We're here to empower you. So there is no excuse why you can't be lifted, as Naomi said. So again, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. We love you. Stay safe, stay blessed, stay in faith, and stay knocking. Have a good night, y'all.